Thinking of investing, working, or starting a business in the cannabis industry? We've got you covered right here on Plant Problems. Hosted by Tony Frischknecht, Plant Problems takes a different approach to cannabis than what you're seeing and hearing from the mainstream media. Come along with Tony and be in the know about how to invest, work, or start a cannabis business. Let's get the show started with your host, Tony Frischknecht.
Nicolas Botti. He is the CEO and co-founder of Grow with Jane, formerly Jane. Grow with Jane is a platform for cannabis home growers from seed to harvest. They help growers all over the world reach harvest no matter how much they know about cannabis or plants. They currently have over 23,000 active users all over the world, and they are based in Buenos Aires, Argentina. I'm really looking forward to sharing what's happening down in South America, so please give a warm welcome to Nicolas Botti. Hey, Nico. It's great having you here today on Plant Problems. How's everything going with you this morning?
Everything's going great. Thanks for having me.
I'm glad you're able to join. I've been waiting for this interview, so this is exciting. Well, Nico, how did you become a grower? How did you start in the growing industry yourself, personally?
So basically, I started because I was a consumer and I didn't want to go to the black market. We are from Argentina, and over here, you cannot buy legal weed. So you kind of have to go to a shady dealer, and that's not a fun experience, not even a safe one. So you can grow it yourself, and the quality is a lot better. And once you start growing, it kind of becomes like a sport. It's fun, it's entertaining, it's a passion. I started, my friends started, some of them were already growing. It's a really cool experience.
Is the black market, for our U.S. listeners, a lot of us don't understand how the black market works in Buenos Aires. And is it big? Is it small? Is there a lot of players in it? Is there just a couple big guys that basically monopolize the black market? Or can you explain how that works?
I think it's similar to a lot of places all over the world. You kind of have like two black markets. One of them has the worst quality possible because it's being grown in fields and stored in awful places, humidity, fungus. And that's the worst quality you can find. It doesn't even look like a flower when you consume it, actually. And then you have the people that they're growing it at their houses or country house, and then they're selling it from their own apartments or houses, and you have a normal conversation with them, let's say, and you buy a jar or two of flour, and that's pretty much it. It's not El Chapo degree. It's just those kind of markets, let's say.
I understand. How does the local officials, how do they deal with? Is there much policing going on, or?
It is, and it's sometimes active in the chasing down people growing, but not necessarily for people having one plant or two, because it's difficult for them to find it. You always get the annoying neighbor that may call the cops, but unless you have the house stinking of weed, you won't have much problem. But yeah, if you have 20 plants, you're going to be in trouble. Not only for the smell, because of how the police are going to react to you. But you can always get that shitty cop that is going to chase you down, or you can have the one that is going to ignore you even if you're smoking a blunt in a corner.
Are the penalties high? Do they throw you in jail? Do they fine you big? I mean, have you heard of is there some stories out there that you've heard of people getting in pretty serious trouble or personal?
Yeah, you can get in trouble. And the police are not, let's say, regular on how they behave. You can have a cop that is going to ignore you, like I said before, and you can have one that is actually going to ask you for money if he found some weed on you. And the penalties could be over a couple of years just because he had some weed on you. If you have weed decriminalized possession up to certain amounts, depending on the cop that found you or whatever, you can go from either getting a slap on the wrist or seeing some jail time.
Okay, what's the weight in grams for decriminalized? I'm not aware of it, so I wanted to ask you what...
It's a couple grams, let's say 2 joints.
Okay.
It's not great because the law is not as specific as it should be. Because what happens if you're in a group of 10 people and you don't even have weed and somebody has, you may get caught either way.
Gotcha. They allow you a little bit for personal use, but they're pretty tight on that regimen. It sounds pretty small, so...
Yeah, it's not about being allowed. It's just there's no penalty for it.
Oh, okay.
So it's not legal, it's decriminalized.
Okay, yes. We actually had that happen in Denver, and then once that started happening, of course, the market started going into discussions of the medical, and then recreational licensing was starting to have discussions when that happened. You brought up the two black markets. We're actually having an issue currently right now, and I'm not sure if you're aware of it, but there's a lot of people getting sick with, well, supposedly they're having illnesses from vape pens, and some people think there are products, there's different ingredients in these vape pens that's making them sick. Is there any discussion down there of any products? I would assume mostly flour where you're at, but do you hear about people getting sick from products that people smoke in Buenos Aires or no?
Yeah, the media reflect that because vaping is not only limited to cannabis. Over here, there's an active community of vaping for tobacco and stuff. Yeah, we read about it. Of course, we're far from experts. And from what I read, it's not directly correlated yet to cannabis. And I think some media decided to make the relation themselves. From what I read from the CDC, I think it was around 80% of the people who were having issues had consumed cannabis or had cannabis in their possession. But also they said that they were mostly males of an average of 19 years old. I'm wondering how many males of 19 years old have tried or have cannabis in their possession, perhaps, which is no relationship there.
Okay. Are the health officials, are they scared of the potential of legalizations of cannabis, or is it even on their radar yet? I mean, we have a lot of in the States right now, of course, given the current state of the industry, but are you starting to see any of that yet?
I think actually the doctors over here and scientists are actually helping the industry a little bit. They're pushing towards research because if you don't research something legally, how can you determine if it's good or bad? I think in the States, you have a similar conundrum. But over here, the community of doctors are a little bit more active. They're working with an organization called Mama Cultiva. Mama Cultiva is an organization that helps people in their journey towards medicinal cannabis. They have a huge focus on refractory, it's not convulsion, epilepsy, sorry. And they are doing great work. And we're having next month, actually, the first legal cannabis expo in Buenos Aires. And the main focus is actually the medicinal part. So that is shining a light.
Do you know the dates on that? I wasn't familiar of the Buenos Aires one yet. I'm not sure if you know those off the top of your hand. It might be interesting for people to be able to look that up.
Yeah, it's October 4th, 5th, and 6th, like a month away, a little bit less.
That's really cool. Have you guys had very many events starting to pop up, or is this just like the first one or first real event in Buenos Aires, or no?
No, this is the first mainstream one. It's being organized by a magazine called THC, actually, a big publication around cannabis. I believe it's monthly, and it's the first legal. We have cannabis cups that are legal. You can always find them in social media. So yeah, we're excited. We're going to attend.
Yeah, that's really exciting for the listeners out there. This should tip you off on how new things are actually happening, especially in South America. Nico, what opportunities do you find that are in the entrepreneurial industry in cannabis in Buenos Aires or South America? Is it all of the above? Do you have certain ones that you think are that will become more prosperous, or what do you see in the future?
Yeah, well, Buenos Aires Argentina is a special place. While we don't have a law allowing either growing hemp even, we have been receiving news of cannabis growth, for example, buying a lot of fields and opening their office of Latin America in Buenos Aires, which gives you the sense that something's going to happen because many companies, especially from Canada, are buying a lot of land and planning some grows. Even though the law is not there, the conversations have not yet been published. So something is going to happen. So what could happen here? Let's ask cannabis growth and all those companies, what do they know? I believe that something around hemp is going to happen probably in the next year or two. And in the rest of Latin America, you have a lot of opportunities. I think right now there's an expo in Colombia, which is mainly focused on hemp and the production of oils, of THC as well. I think Chile has a great cannabis community. It's pretty big. Uruguay, it's legal to grow in your house. You have clubs where you can grow cannabis as well. You can buy your cannabis legally. Things are moving. Things are happening. And opportunities, just imagine Colorado or Denver a couple of years ago, and that's where it's at. So a lot of those companies are working with dispensaries or stocking products, packaging. All those products could work here. No problem. Just a different culture, let's say.
Gotcha. Is it very cash intensive to start a farm and buy land and hire people in Argentina?
far from an expert, but it's
Yeah.
going to be really different to the States. The cost of labor is going to be very different as well, much, much, much lower. You might have some troubles getting the money out or getting the profits outside, but if you can wait a little bit, you might strike gold.
So you would have to keep your monies in the country there until you could figure out a solution. So that sounds like it's one of the road bumps along the way. But, we're in the cannabis industry, and that's kind of par for the course when you decide to start working in it, right?
Oh, yeah. Tell us about it. Yeah, it's just another bump. I mean, if it's an investment, it should be for the long term, especially with growing operations. But Argentina is also the entrance to the rest of Latin America. We have a big influence in the rest of Latin America. There's huge opportunity.
Why do you believe that it's basically the opening to Latin America?
Well, from our history, we had a great cultural influence in the rest of Latin America. It happened for many reasons. It happens because of our agriculture. We have a lot of land. We have a lot of culture of producing different food products and meats and stuff like that made us a huge influence. But at the same time, our culture and our influx of Italians and Germans and French and Spanish that came to Argentina made it a rich culture. Even the music industry is one of the most influential in Latin America. And with the companies, it works kind of like that as well. At the same time, our economic problems made it to not work as it should. And other countries are having more success, let's say, economically, but still Argentina, it's a huge influence.
What's the main ag production happening in Argentina right now?
Soy.
Do you know what the main agricultural product being created?
Yeah, soy, basically. I think a couple weeks ago, we struck a deal even with China to export an insane amount of soy. And that's taken over everything, basically.
Well, that's interesting. It's probably, I wonder if that has anything to do with our trade embargoes that are starting to happen with, or that are being potentially created right now with the US and China. Interesting.
Getting hurt.
Yeah, I bet. So for you farmers out there, especially you soy farmers, pay attention to this. We're definitely, the U.S. is not the only country growing agricultural products. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. So let's talk a little bit about Grow with Jane. You guys started this product, what was it, 3 years ago now?
A little bit more, actually. The idea started happening already in 2015, but we didn't launch anything up until 2017. So yeah, it started quite a while ago. Basically, my friends and I decided to work together. We met in high school when we were 12, 13. We had different professional backgrounds, and we decided, let's do something together and let's do something that we love. Let's have our own company, our own business. And in that ambition, we decided either crypto or cannabis. We wanted something emerging, something we liked, something that could have great success and not do something boring, basically. And because of we were growing cannabis and our love for it, we decided to go for it and help people grow their own. They say you should do what you know, and that's what we knew. And after a couple of years of failing, let's say, of not releasing a product and being too perfectionist, if you make a list of the top 10 mistakes of a startup, I think we made all of them a couple of times. But through hard work and dedication and having 2 jobs, we finally launched our software. It's basically a journal, and we help people go from seed to harvest, no matter how much they know about plants or even cannabis. We say that growing cannabis is not hard. So in that effort, we launched it, and we didn't have any money or budget for marketing or anything like that. And the first month, we had a couple of downloads on the Android Play Store, and then a couple hundred, a couple thousand, and it started to grow. And in that growth, we had over 5,000 emails from growers asking us questions of how to grow. We connected with thousands of people. Right now, we're almost in 24,000 active users. We still haven't got any budget for marketing. We're still working that out.
So working with the growers, what do you think the top 3 problems that growers have when they come to you? I'm sure they have top 3 to 5 different questions that you hear all the time, every time you get a new user. Can you share some of those with me?
One of the biggest problems they have is they kind of feel lonely while they do what they're doing. There's no validation. You're already doing something that is not cool to be talked about in your house or maybe with your parents or your friends sometimes. So already the companionship and checking, hey, is what I'm doing good? Is this going to kill the plant? That is a huge, huge thing for them. Another thing is sometimes people don't know how to take care of a basic house plant. They think they could water it every day and it's going to grow better. So basic tips already, like how to water your plant, how much fertilizer to apply to it, that is enough, or how much light does it need. The basics of it already are a huge, huge boost for people, especially when they're starting. And also people don't know a lot about the culture of doing it. And the culture of doing it includes not only taking care of it every other day, but it also includes thinking about the long run and already buying the soil before you have to use it or transplanting the plant. All those small little things that make the difference between being able to harvest a decent amount and just having a joint after 3 months. So yeah, I think that already teaching them how to water and apply fertilizer, that should do a lot.
Are you self-taught? Did you teach yourself by books, or how did you learn how to grow?
Yeah, I wouldn't call it self-taught. There's a lot of material out there. I think sometimes the problem is there's too much. You have 200 different opinions on the same matter because everybody wants to be an expert. And sometimes it's simpler than that. Sometimes you got to teach the basics and people develop their own opinions. You have a lot of media, a lot of websites where you can learn how to do the basics and kind of self-taught, but at the same time, all this guidance helped us out a lot. And one of the key challenges when we first thought about this was, can we simplify it so anybody, anywhere, all over the world can understand it? And we think we managed to do that.
Great. Another question for you is how, for the newbie that's going through all this information, right, that's online and books, through opinions, through other growers, how do you decide who to listen to and who not to listen to?
That's a good question. You should find a voice that it's represented by a lot of people, that a lot of people are using it, that are having success. It's like, that's a problem with the internet as well. I think right now there's a huge conversation on the internet about fake news. The same can happen about information. And if somebody seems like they're saying they have all the answers to every question, just doubt a little bit, pull back a little bit and try to see the big picture and what's happening. Usually, if somebody says something extremely precise and it's not open to suggestions and it's really rigid, that person is wrong. One of the things we have is we have growers all over the world. And some people are growing in Colorado, in, let's say, Boulder. And Boulder has low oxygen because it's a really high place, the altitude. And in Buenos Aires, it's not the same. In Buenos Aires, it's really humid. And in Colorado, it's not. So all those differences make the world of difference to the plant. At the same time, imagine the water content. You can have water in Buenos Aires which is really good to the plants and has no problems. And you change the city or the country and it has a lot of chloride or it has a different pH and that is not going to be beneficial to the plant. So you got to be open to all the variables. It's not an absolute thing when you're giving advice. It's more about listening to them and understand the real problems and then trying to help them out.
Yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out. It's a challenge. People tend to think, well, I was successful here, so I can move to another state and start growing here and it'll be just fine. And I know I can have some success. But what you're talking about is all these properties that play into your form of success, right? Like you said, with the watering, altitude, nutrients, along with, tell me if I'm wrong, but strains, right? Strain specifics for the altitude of the climate you're in as well. That can be a major effect to how your plants end up finishing on before harvest, right?
Yeah, one of the conversations we're having with seed producers, seed breeders, is they are testing their breeds and they're shipping them. They're selling seed. In Europe, selling seeds is something that happens every day and there's no problem, let's say. But the thing is, they are testing the seeds maybe in the vicinity of Barcelona, but it's not the same in Buenos Aires than it is in Colorado. And if they're shipping it to both places and they have the same instructions, you're having a problem. That's not going to work. And one of them is going to fail. So how are you helping your customers when you're doing this?
Do you pick up on that right away with the customers?
Yeah, kind of. They see a problem, but they don't understand it. The same happening with the fertilizer producers. They're shipping overseas and they don't understand that they are mixing the fertilizer with water that has a different pH. And again, you're running into problems. Or they're sending instructions with 5 different types of measurement between teaspoons and millimeters and gallons. It's like, these are human beings. Just give them plain instructions and help them. That's something
like there's a lot of confusion that can happen then on the way from just the delivery of the seeds to the customer with nutrients, right?
It's insane. I think this industry has a lot of path to walk yet and learn a lot about how people are growing their houses. Hopefully we can help in that connection. We strongly believe that the real experts in this growing are these seed producers, seed breeders, the fertilizer producers. They're having huge grow operations and testing and trial and error. They know a lot, but I think that they can do better in understanding their customers.
So if you were to, knowing what you know now, if you were to go to start a grow in Argentina, what would be the number one thing you would tell your customer or your patient on the other end if they decided they wanted to start growing their own product?
In their house?
In their house or outdoors, wherever they have space for it, right? What would you suggest they do?
Well, given our regulations, not tell anybody. That's
okay, yeah.
the first one. Then order a good strain online from a known breeder. Have a couple seeds, germinate them, and select the best ones. Don't just use them because you have the seed. Your space is precious, and you got to make the most of it. And then just take it slow, watch it grow. And the less you do to it, the more chances of having success you have. And after your second grow, you can start fooling around and playing around, but just play it safe, because part of the journey is just learning and having fun while you're doing it, and share it with whoever you love and it's in your house or in your life. I think that's precious, and you got to enjoy it. The connection to the plant is really valuable.
Absolutely. So I want to touch on that. You brought up, you said, just leave it alone. So when you say just leave it alone, explain exactly what you mean, because people take that differently and they can tend to overdo it, right?
Yeah, just watch it. The plant is going to show what it needs all the time. It's a beautiful plant, and the more you learn from it, the more you fall in love with it. I believe it's going to tell you. If it needs water, it's going to show. If it needs fertilizer, it's going to show. It's not extremely complicated. It's kind of like a relationship. You need to cool it down. You need to just leave it the space that it needs to show what it needs.
Yeah, I think you're 100% correct there, Nico, that a lot of new growers will get into this mindset that they always have to be doing something to their plant, right? And so you tend to overdo it, and you cause a lot more pain towards the process, instead of, I like to keep it simple, stupid is what was taught to me. And that's just a very simple, try to keep it as simple as possible when you're starting, along with information you're intaking, all that stuff. And, the other thing too I've noticed is that people try to change too many things at once. They either try to add more nutrients, right? Or they try to add different nutrients, and they're doing all this not watching the plant, right?
Yeah.
And
it's like the culture of bonsai. Bonsai, it's doing little every once in a while, and people want to attack this plant.
Yeah, exactly. I really appreciate you joining us today. I wanted to, Nico, can you share your contact info if people want to reach out to you and talk to you about Grow with Jane, please?
Yeah, sure. They can find us at growwithjane.com. Also on Instagram, Grow with Jane. If they're using Android devices or iOS devices, they can look us up. But at the same time, they can look for Cannabis Grow, either the App Store or the Play Store. We're going to be top 3 all the time. And they can contact through the app, through email, through Instagram. We're responding everywhere. We strongly believe in the contact with people. They help us. We are right now.
Well, I really appreciate what you guys are working on. It's not easy to build a system like you guys are doing. So, Nico Botti, I appreciate you being on the show today, and thank you so much. I look forward to seeing future success with you, okay?
Thank you very much, man.
No problem. Have a great day.
You've just listened to another insightful episode of Plant Problems. If you like what you heard so far, don't forget to tell your friends and colleagues. For additional resources or to leave a review, head over to plantproblem.com. Join us again next week on Plant Problems with Tony Frischknecht. We look forward to having conversations with you as we go along this journey.